Hey guys, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home. I've got a very exciting 4K review to do for you today. We're going to take a look at Pitch Black, the first 4K Blu-ray from Arrow Video. Hey everyone, so thanks for coming back to the channel for this review. Bear with me, allergies are still a little bit rough and my voice is in and out, but I'm doing my best. So we got in Pitch Black from Arrow Video. This is Arrow Video's first 4K Blu-ray. Now they also are releasing Flash Gordon here in the United States, but it's actually not their transfer. That transfer was actually done by Studio Canal, who is releasing Flash Gordon on 4K overseas in the UK. And so this is actually Arrow's first 4K Blu-ray, their first 4K restoration on a 4K disc that we'll be able to see. And it should be a good measuring point for whether they're ready to jump into this 4K game or if they still have some work to do. So Pitch Black here, this was licensed to Arrow Video from Universal, and the movie's from 1999. Now on this release, you get both the theatrical and the director's cut, so you have the option right when you get to the opening menu, disc menu, which is great. They have a really cool disc menu. You click play and you have the option between director's or theatrical cut. Now, I watched the theatrical cut, but both the director's cut and the theatrical cut were supervised by the director and were both restored on 4K. So they both should have very similar image quality, but I decided to focus on the theatrical for this release as that's the version that I knew the best. But either way, they should have very similar transfers. They were worked on by the same team and both supervised by the director. So on this release, we are getting the restored 4K image, as I said, and we are getting Dolby Vision HDR, which has an HDR10 base. So whether your display can handle Dolby Vision or HDR10, you will be getting those two options on this release, which is really cool. It's nice to see Arrow jump right into the Dolby Vision game. Now for the picture quality on this was a very interesting review because there's almost three distinct movies that you're reviewing from like a color palette standpoint. Obviously you have the beginning of the film, which is very orange, yellow, very, very bright. Almost looks washed out, but it's intended to be. That's what the image looked like. You know, they're on a planet, a desert planet, and so that's the look. And then you get sort of that second sun, which turns the whole planet this sort of light blue, really kind of almost like a turquoise blue color. So that's very interesting. And then of course we have the nighttime sequences. So there's really like quite a few different things to be looking at while you're looking at just simply the color grading, but it also gives a drastically different color palette across each of those moments. So I thought first off that they were all handled very well. The colors look great, whether it was blue, yellow, orange, whether it was nighttime, everything looked really well. It was well balanced and it didn't come off as like too cheesy or anything. Nothing was too yellow, too orange, too blue. Everything was really well balanced. So that probably is props to the 4K restoration team, but they didn't overdo it with the HDR, which is something I was worried about considering how those scenes could look. They balanced everything very well. Now the nighttime sequences also stood out to me. Those are difficult. As you know in my Goonies review, some of the scenes in the dark were very hard to see. But thankfully I can report here on Pitch Black that the nighttime sequences are very well done. Deep blacks, but not so dark that you can't see what's going on. It's a very well balanced overall image, regardless of which kind of sun or setting we're in across the movie. And the dark scenes really impressed me the most. It actually, I thought it looked the best when they were completely in the dark, when it was pitch black. But those sequences in that whole last portion was really good. That was the most impressive part. The yellow, blue, the beginning of the movie, the first 45, 50 minutes, hour, that was good, but I definitely was more impressed with the second half. Now, from a detail standpoint, this is extremely detailed, but also depending on the scene, extremely grainy, which is not an issue because this was shot on 35mm, transferred up to 4K, but it has a very filmic look and feel. There are some sequences in the beginning of the movie, especially where the grain is heavy. It's very heavy, and that mostly comes because of the backdrops all being sort of the same color. So when you have a person's face on the front of the screen and they're close up on them, you can really make out a lot of great details, and they look super, like everything's really sharp. You can make out hairs, pores, all kinds of stuff, facial hair. You can really do a good job, and they did a great job on this. But then in the background, you'll see a very grainy background image. Now, by no means am I knocking the movie for that, because I like my movies to be transferred in the purest form that they are available in, and this was a 35mm. You should see a lot of grain. I have no issues with it, but I can already see that people may complain that it's too grainy. It is what it is, though. It's a movie from 1999, shot on film, has some really distinct colors, and the grain stands out in some cases, but that's part of what you get with a film presentation. And personally, it didn't detract from the experience, in my opinion, at all. And if anything, it just gave a more authentic experience. So overall, for their first effort here, Arrow Video did a very nice job. Overall picture quality was solid. I would give it a good 4.5 out of 5. It's not the best thing I've ever seen in the world, but it's certainly up there with some of the better 4K transfers. It's definitely one of the better catalog transfers that I've seen. And you know, Universal has had some great success with their 4K transfers. They're sort of hit or miss. I've had some I didn't like and some I loved. This one was definitely one of the better ones, and Arrow did Universal well with Pitch Black here. It's a great picture quality. It's a definite upgrade over your Blu-ray in that sense, because the Blu-ray, in my opinion, was extremely grainy, and that's where 4K really helps. You get those extra pixels. The grain structure is more fine, more detailed. It's not as noticeable, and the dark sequences on this disc look much better than on the Blu-ray. Blu-ray was a little muddy. It was a little tough to see at times, in my opinion, and here they really cleared that up, and I got a great solid visual experience. So 4.5 out of 5 on the visuals. Arrow did a great job. Now the audio track on this one is the same DTS HD 5.1 master audio track that you got on the Blu-ray. So while it would have been nice to see an Atmos track here, it wasn't really necessary because the 5.1 was cranking. The bass and the low frequency effects on this were really solid. My room was shaking. I thought that surround effects were great, and dialogue especially was super clear. My center speaker here got a workout, but it sounded awesome, and it definitely brought dialogue to the forefront, which is important, but without losing all of the great background sounds and action and surround effects that you can get. So it was a very well-balanced 5.1, but it is the same one from the Blu-ray, which was also excellent. So no real audio upgrade here if you were looking for that, but it is a solid mix. So if you don't have the Blu-ray, this is a great soundtrack. If you have the Blu-ray, unfortunately, you're going to be getting the same experience, but I still think it's worth upgrading from audio visual standpoint because of the great visuals. Now, another clear reason to upgrade from your Blu-ray is the fact that this is an Arrow Video release, so you know it's packed with features and it has cool packaging. Now, the packaging is just this, a standard kind of thicker black 4K case. There was going to be a slipcover. They ran into some printing issues, so these releases aren't having slipcovers, and honestly, I want to say this, it's not that big of a deal. I saw some people online saying they were canceling their pre-orders. They weren't going to buy this because it doesn't have a slipcover. And honestly, if that's the way that we're going to treat companies like Arrow Video who are releasing their first 4K release, so what? They ran into a hiccup. The world's a little crazy right now. I don't think we should be canceling pre-orders over a cardboard slip. I love them as much as the next guy, but ultimately we've got to support great 4K transfers, and ultimately it matters what's on the disc more than how the disc is held. So no slipcover, but you do get reversible artwork. This is the night version, but if I open this up, I'll just do this quickly. There is a reversible daytime, so you can flip that either way. You can do what you want with that one. So that's kind of cool, but you know, it's typical for Arrow. They do typically have reversible artwork like this, but it's nice to see them not cut any corners on their 4K releases and continue to do that. Now, the biggest pain in doing that is I just screwed it up and now I need to get it back in straight before I show you guys this again. All right, so typical Arrow packaging, but also they're not to be outdone on the special features because this is loaded with them. I'll read off some for you, but we've got a commentary with the director and Vin Diesel and Cole Hauser, archive commentary with the director, producer, and visual effects supervisor. We got a new interview with the director and co-writer, David Twohy, by the way. I don't know if I said his name right. You guys know I'm terrible with that. Black Box, Jackie's Journey, a newly recorded interview with actor Rihanna Griffith, Griffith, Black Box, Shaz's Last Stand. So new interviews with tons of the cast. We've got an introduction from David Twohy. We got a comparison between early CGI tests and the final footage, more behind the scenes footage. We've got the Chronicles of Riddick Dark Fury, which is an animated short film directed by Peter Chung, which is sort of a bridge point between Pitch Black and the Chronicles of Riddick. We've got the John's Chase Log, a short prequel detailing the character's hunt for Riddick by Cole Hauser. All kinds of stuff on here. I mean, Pitch Black, a TV special, Rave World, Pitch Black event, footage of a dance music event held to promote the film. I mean, it just goes on and on. Theatrical trailers for the 2 sequels, the video game, image galleries, like on and on and on. I mean, this whole back cover is just listing special features. So if you're a fan of this movie, that's another reason to upgrade from Blu-ray. We got great visuals, we got the same audio, which is awesome, but all these special features in the packaging make this well worth a purchase if you're a huge fan. Now on the inside, we have this little booklet. It's got like some essays and short writings about the movie, as well as some behind the scenes pictures and things like that. And then we got the disc here, which has the same artwork that's on the front cover. So overall, a very good Arrow release. Certainly no corners were cut since this was their first 4K. That's an expensive venture to jump into, but they loaded this with special features. All the special features are on the 4K disc because there is only the 4K disc. There's no Blu-ray with this, no digital code. So everything's loaded onto this 4K disc. Literally hours of bonus content, a theatrical cut, a director's cut, awesome 4K visuals with Dolby Vision, and that awesome audio track. Whether it was upgraded or not, it still sounds great. This one comes highly recommended. I really like it. I really enjoyed it, and I think that Arrow Video certainly has gotten their feet wet with 4K, but also done a tremendous job with their first effort here, and I applaud them for it. So ultimately, the question always is this worth upgrading over the Blu-ray? And in this case, I say without a doubt 100% yes. Great 4K visuals and all those special features alone. If you're a fan of this movie, that's a no-brainer. But, you know, with everything that Arrow gives you, it's great to support them as well. So there's a reason to upgrade because it's a much better release overall, but also because it's their first 4K transfer, and I want to support them, and they did a great job. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, I probably would have bought this 4K disc anyway to support their cause and support the label, and they did a great job, so you can't complain. So that's about it for this review. I will leave a link to purchase Pitch Black on Amazon down in the description. If you guys are interested, use my link. It helps support the channel. Also, make sure to check out all the other links down in my description, as well as other ways you can support the channel through donations or just being a member or following me on Instagram. There's many ways to support that don't involve money, and a lot of that is down in the description. So I really appreciate all the support you guys have given. Make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications on because I have more videos coming. Along with Pitch Black, I also received Flash Gordon, the New York Stripper, and The House by the Cemetery, all in 4K, as well as the Sherlock Holmes movies I still need to get to. So I have a lot of great stuff. And I heard that the Hitchcock collection is on its way to my house today. So we'll be banging that out over the weekend here. So stay tuned for all that. The best way to stay up to date is to be subscribed and have your notifications on. I appreciate you all for doing that. With that being said, let's take off. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you'll pick up Pitch Black 4K and support Arrow Video. But otherwise, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.